Hi, good morning, Ghana. You are tuned into News Magazine with me, Irbad Ibrahim, and today, as usual, the show is packed, and we will have a chit chat with an international educationist, Jerry Kotson Senior, to discuss the various approaches adopted by various countries in terms of giving the best output in the educational sector. And today is also part of the month of October, which has come to be known as the Pink Month because of the efforts being made against breast cancer. Abena, before we go for that short break, then look at trending news stories. It's Pink Month, and I don't know, people are quite adept at naming things. Why pink and you're in red?
Well, I think it's a feminist thing because pink usually, ladies like pink. So being a breast cancer month, awareness month, people, they decided to use the pink to depict the whole occasion or whatever that is going on.
And then the statistics given by the World Health Organization are quite scary. Apart from lung cancer, breast cancer kills women every year more than any other form of cancer. I don't have a breast because I'm a man.
I know.
But
it do affect men as well. It's just that the
breast
rate
cancer
is.
affects
yes,
men
yes,
as well.
it does.
I didn't know.
It does. It's not only for ladies. It's just that the ladies is more than ladies get breast cancer more than that of men. So that's the reason all the time people think it's a women thing, but it's both.
So what
it's
causes
both sex.
it?
Well,
Is it
I think
genetic or is rather physical?
well,
If
it
you don't
couldn't be
take
only
certain
genetics.
hygiene, okay, it has
couldn't be
nothing to do
only-
with hygiene and maintenance in terms of cleaning
well-
up twice a day and all that.
Well, I think the expert would be in a better position to give out this, but most breast cancer cases is from the food we take in, and recently I heard even the food we heat with microwaves and in plastic containers and all that, all of them causes breast cancer. So there are lots of
now that people are calling for the introduction of GMOs, genetically modified organisms, then I'm sorry to say such cases will only increase rather than decrease.
Definitely. Definitely.
So I think we need to eat natural. Get your kwansu soy and tomatoes from the backyard farm and then cook all the time. And let's cut down on eating canned foods, so to speak. Okay, on that breast cancer note, we go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, Abena takes us through the trending news stories. Do stick and stay with us. Okay, you're welcome back. You are still tuned into News Magazine with me, Irbad Ibrahim and Abena Safo. And Abena, for those who don't have the expert answers to the questions on breast cancer, do join Amaya Mewa at 4 p.m. on this same channel. Akosua Yamewa, as she discusses such an important topic. What do we have by way of trending news?
Well, we have a lot today, and I'm going to quickly move to Ghana Web. On Ghana Web, IMF cuts global economic growth target to 3.7. What is your take on this? Because I think our economy is dropping every single passing day.
I think in matters of international monetary issues, there are two principles that can be adopted. We have the principle of realism and the principle of idealism. It is the wish of the IMF that there will be no schools under trees, for example, in Ghana. There will be enough ambulances, our health facilities will be efficient. All of that would cost money. But sometimes you take a step backwards and ask yourself, ideally, these are the things we should have in terms of economic well-being across the world. But what is the reality on the ground? So I think reality is beginning to smite them in the face that you may be well-intentioned, but it is just very difficult to have all third world countries meeting the economic standards you are looking for. And again, Ghana still has an ongoing program with the IMF. I believe there will be an opportunity to revise some of the conditionalities, because for me, it doesn't make sense that an international, institution like the IMF will tell a third world country not to employ your graduates. It just doesn't add up. So therefore, it's good we are facing the realities on the ground, and countries should be independent to make some of these economic decisions.
But do you think cutting down this 2% would really help? Or?
The IMF is only saying, okay, we would have loved it if the
well,
whole world
according to
was
them,
this
it
high.
has been dropped by 2%.
Yes,
So.
yes. So we would have wished if the whole world had reached this high. But now let's be realistic. Let's push it down a bit. So for me, it's a step in the right direction.
Anyway, we hope it helps. Though.
We just hope it doesn't starve nations of the funds they need to carry out rudimentary governmental projects like providing portable drinking water and a host of others.
We move to another story. This is also from Ghana Web. More controversies as government engages on Singaporean to develop Accra. Do you think we really need people to come develop our country? I mean, for us, because I feel we should be able to do something for ourselves. Because China is developed. We wouldn't even talk about US. That is, I mean, they're almighty.
But
whatever.
Your grandfathers and mine built the United States.
Yes, I know.
They built the UK.
I know.
And they had working Ghanaians and Asians, Africans and Asians that were enslaved.
Yeah,
those
but China
working
has come up.
Yeah, those working on the plantation farms.
Yeah.
They built these industrial countries. So therefore, it is only equitable that we become inward-looking and develop our own countries.
Definitely.
But we live in these contemporary times, Abena, we are interdependent. Nations depend on each other, continents depend on each other.
Yes, but I don't think we should just give a country a go-ahead to come and develop our country. It should be that we should do something, and then at least they can intervene. But
yes,
not
on the floor of the UN General Assembly, the president, re-echoed his sentiment that Ghana should go beyond aid. So therefore, I think these are forms of partnerships rather than entirely dependent on Singapore. Because we can't do it all alone. We need our international partners.
Okay. Anyway, we take it. This is from City as well. We will campaign in schools, sack all head teachers. Enusa, there's GES.
It's quite slippery when you discuss, partisan issues in the Republic of Ghana. Because if care is not taken, you attacked Party A or Party B. But we need not belabor the point that when kids go to school, especially at that, critical age, between the age of 15 and 21, for example, for late starters, some start school really late. So you could be 21 and you're in SHS1. The least you want to hear about is why Party A is against Party B, all the subterfuge and mutual destruction.
Education, when it comes to education, it shouldn't be politicized, because education, every human being in a particular country is entitled to go to school. So when it comes to our education system, we shouldn't involve, party, we shouldn't politicize our education system. It should strictly be a country or a citizen thing.
Yeah,
it seems they are politicizing our
that would have been
system.
That perfect, impeccable situation we should have. But sadly in Ghana, everything is looked through the lens of partisanship. So
which
therefore,
is wrong,
people are trying to equalize. If during the time of the NPP in opposition, our current vice president could go to various colleges and universities to talk politics, why should the NDC, which is now in opposition, not be allowed to speak to? But for every political watcher, free SHS is going to be a fat cow in the year 2020. For all you know, even though the government is well-intentioned to make sure that in the long term, all Ghanaians have basic education up to the high level. That is why SHS is free. But then, these are hundreds of thousands of young people. And mind you, not less than 200,000 of those will be first-time voters in 2020. And so they are a huge constituency. So it creates a catch-22 situation. Do all these young people vote the NPP because the NPP provided them this opportunity? Or other political parties should have the opportunity to engage them? And that is why I agree with you that we shouldn't politicize education. But policies that are made in the educational sector have a wide-reaching impact on elections that are held. And 2020 is not going to be an exception.
But do you know that a lot of people actually think that free SHS is it's a favor that government is doing for us.
It's a right.
Which I think it's not a favor
it's the
because
right
we
of
are
every,
entitled to it.
yeah, it's the right of every, Ghanaian citizen to
Yes.
have education. But there is an element of benevolence on the part of government.
Yeah.
Maybe other governments had the opportunity, but they didn't do it. So therefore, I think government should be commended. But then SHS or high schools will be a tough, a battlefield for political parties in 2020, whether we like it or not. Because 50,000 votes can make a difference. And these are hundreds of thousands of young people that feel enamored to government and feel indebted. That the burden that would have been on the shoulders of their parents have been taken. And they are first-time voters. That makes it critical. So therefore, getting 100,000 votes from high school students could make all the difference.
Definitely.
So therefore, I don't want the debate to end here. If a policy is taken and it has got political dividends, then of course there should be, an even playing field or playing ground for everybody to cash in on that political opportunity.
Okay. Still on City News, Men's Gold is not a Ponzi scheme from the PRO.
The word Ponzi comes from the name of a man called Charles Ponzi.
Okay.
He was an Italian by nationality, but he traveled to the United States and came up with a banking scheme. People could drop money, and then the monies would be doubled, or they would have outlandish, levels of returns. But later, it all turned out to be a scam. So every scam like Piram and others we've seen in this country could also fall within the description, Ponzi. But Men's Gold says it's a gold dealership. It's not answerable to SEC, Security and Exchanges, Commission or whatever it is, and
but don't
others.
you think it falls
so it's
under
a battle.
that category?
It's a battle, and I hear people have really invested hundreds of thousands of Ghana cedis. Some people took their retirement packages and just went in. But I would caution Ghanaians, if it's too good to be true, then maybe then it's not true. When you even buy a treasury bill per annum, there's only a marginal increase. So for you to just say, okay, I want to work, I'm going to deposit 200,000 and make 20,000 every month, then you have to question the kind of modus operandi that is adopted by such an entity. So for me, it's fair play that the activities of Men's Gold would be pried into and scrutinized. And if it comes out to be a clean, dealership, why not? Everybody will feel secure that their money is with Men's Gold.
Okay, we move into CGTN. Google unveils new Pixel phone, adds tablets in Apple challenge. I think
the smartphone industry is quite
really
fluid.
moving in a fast pace.
Yes, the smartphone industry is very fluid, Abena. For so long, it's been a battle between Samsung and then Apple.
Yes.
And now Google, which is a tech giant, is coming into the fray. So it will be interesting to see what happens, whether we'll soon be waving our phones and they will make calls or whatever will happen. But
I think this,
technology
you can even
is
talk
evolving.
to your phone and then it performs the action you ask it to do.
Very soon, women in the kitchen will ask phones to give them recipe for cooking. And so it's refreshing. The competition is good. But I would caution, the caveat I'll give is that when you go to developed countries, even though they make these latest devices, electronic devices, they don't waste their savings on them.
Not at all. Not at all.
There is a Ghanaian who earns maybe more than 1,000 Ghana cedis a month. And every year Apple publishes a new version of iPhones the person wants to buy. So people waste away their life savings to have the latest phone. When you go to other countries, white people don't do that.
Yet we cry every day. We don't have
cry
money.
of
we
poverty.
Need this.
So Africa is a huge market for flashy things, flashy cars, flashy phones. So much as Google is entering into this, foray, so to speak, it will enhance technology. Technology is going to further evolve. But Ghanaians and Africans should be careful not to spend 80% of their savings, 70% of their savings.
Life savings.
Their life savings sometimes, to just get a phone.
Okay, still on CGTN, at least 42 killed in Kenya road accidents. Oh, this is
it's quite unfortunate. I think in Ghana, many people die as a result of road accidents. And in recent times, Abena, it's quite an eyesore that when you move through town, there are traffic lights that are defunct, non-functional. And so cars collide, and casualties, injuries are suffered and all that. So therefore, Ghana can take a cue. This is false majeure. Sometimes you can't control nature, but I believe as humanly possible, we can minimize the impact of such carnage on our roads.
I think this is really getting too much in Africa, because even the country that produces a lot of cars are not, I mean, accidents are not occurring this way as compared to Africa or Ghana or the African continent, to be
we should
precise.
also respect,
So
you know, traffic
I don't know
regulations.
what is really happening.
Sometimes we drive through the red lights, and other times
and careless driving as well.
At some drink and drive. And why should there be a drinking spot or a pub at a bus station or a lorry station, for example, or a taxi station? So therefore, I believe we need to look at. And then I'm also concerned about the operations of DVLA. If the car is rickety, why allow it on our roads?
Sometimes, you know, a car on our roads, you'll see the fume that is coming out of it. I mean, and it's allowed to be on the road. I mean, such cars shouldn't be allowed on the road, because, I mean, it's polluting it's polluting our environment, and it's causing a lot of harm to people. I mean, living things. I mean, animals, human beings, what have you.
You know, there are some buses. I don't want to mention specific areas, but when you're going to Kolebo from somewhere,
yes, I know what you're talking about.
You know,
I really
but
know
I
what
don't
you're
want to
talking
spoil
about. I know.
business. I don't know why those Tata buses are still on the roads. So therefore, for the authorities at DVLA, they are doing a yeoman's job.
And it looks like such buses are specifically for
meant
those
for
areas.
that area. So I don't know. So if the car is rickety, then it is not worthy of being on our roads, because when you have unworthy vehicles on the roads, accidents may happen. And again, don't drive when you are tipsy. People go for night engagements, meetings and all that. When you are even leaving your office and you are too tired, you can call someone from the house to drive you home.
Someone will say, I want to ginger myself before I drive.
Yes.
Anyway, moving to our last story. This is from BBC. Mayoka flash flood kills at least 5 people on the Spanish island.
Yeah, Ghana is fortunate. We are not on tectonic fault lines, so to speak, earthquakes and others. But flooding is a huge, problem we have in Accra, especially. And so therefore, as such, things happen elsewhere, we can always take a cue. June 3 is still fresh on our minds. We were all stranded on June 3. So therefore, I believe that we need to, we need to understand the topography of Accra. This capital city is congested. How can we have a proper transport system so that we can ease the tension on our roads? How do real estate agents and actors in that industry abide by the laws not to build on waterway and all that? I think we need a holistic approach to solve the issue of perennial flooding in Accra and other cities in this country. On that note, Abena just wrapped up on the trending news. We go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we sit with Jerry Kwatson Senior, an international educationist, to continue our discussion on education. Do stick and stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Come back, and thanks for sticking with us on News Magazine. As we keep reiterating, the essence of this program is not to be a talk show. It goes beyond becoming a talk show. We diagnose some of our national problems and proffer lasting solutions to them by working with experts in various areas and then interacting with policymakers to effect the needed changes. And today, we couldn't have had a better person to continue our discussion on education, but someone of international repute, Mr. Jerry Kwatson Senior. Sir, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Jerry, of course, when it comes to the various models we have in education, especially at the preschool level, there are different approaches that are used. How do you feel about preschool in Ghana?
The first question I would like to ask is that preschool in Ghana, do they have any curriculum they follow? preschools in Ghana, do they have any curriculum that they follow?
Okay.
Because during my dissertation, I came in at a time it was the Kufuor government who were in power. So I had the opportunity to speak with the then Education Minister, Mr. Papa Osuang Ankuma.
Okay.
And I questioned him. We have 5 curriculums in the world. America has, they call it curriculums. British call it curricula. Okay, so what curriculum does Ghana follow? And he couldn't answer that.
You asked the then education minister.
Yes.
And he was clueless.
He was clueless. And I would like to find out from you, because of the proprietors you spoke to the last time I spoke, what kind of curriculum do you follow?
Yes, the British curriculum that is used in most Montessori schools in Ghana. And of course, Lincoln School in Abelempe would use the American model. So therefore, I believe those are the 2 major models we use here in Ghana.
2 major models in Ghana. Okay, in the world, we have 5 curriculums.
Okay.
But the most used are Dr. Maria Montessori,
Okay.
Creative Curriculum, High Scope, and Bank Street. Those are the 4 major ones that are used.
Okay.
The other one is very expensive, so they don't use it. And among the 4, it has been established that Dr. Maria Montessori's curriculum has emerged the best, even though it is the most costly, but it has emerged the best. Why? Because it gives the children the ability to think more, to critically think more on, they build projects. They don't just play. They do not just play, come in and play with blacks. They build projects. So it is more like student-driven, not teacher-directed. That is why Montessori is doing so well. It has done so well around the world.
You are bringing a very insightful perspective to the discussion, because discussions in the past week or so have delved into the things we know already. Now that you are bringing new angles to it, would you share with us what differences there are between those 5 different models? When you say creative, high scope, what makes them different?
High Scope was invented by one Paige, P-A-I-G-E. Okay. He created a student, a teacher-driven curriculum where teacher will direct everything in the classroom.
Okay.
And each classroom is divided. You may see it vast, but it is always divided into sections. We have the sand and table section, sand and water section. We have the science area. We have the dramatic play area. We have the black area. We have the table toys area. It has 7 or 8 domains in the preschool classroom. So it isn't just like setting up a school and then throwing things in there. And having had almost 2 decades experience in the US, I thought it was with my family to come in, take leave of absence to see if I can help set up the preschool system, because we are now in the global village. And we all know that the foundation of every country depends on how well their preschool is set up.
So with the creative model, It means within one classroom space, you have 5, 6, or 7 different sections. Would you then have one facilitator or one teacher?
At the level, we have preschool 3, that is those who are cut off. In America, the cut-off date is October 1st. October 1st. When you hit 3 before October 1st, you are in pre-K 3. When you hit 4 years by October 1st, you are in pre-K 4. But mostly, we combine pre-K 4 and pre-K 5 together because they are almost physically
the same.
But for the pre-K 3, they are younger folks, so we intend to separate them. And to answer your question, there has never been one teacher in the classroom. And moreover, in every setup, because of trust, we always set up CC cameras around. All the classrooms that I've dealt with over the past 20 years, we have always had CC cameras in the classroom. Advantage areas where the only place that we don't have CC cameras are the bathrooms because we want the children to have their privacy. Other than that, where they sleep, where they learn, all the areas we have CC cameras there. So to answer your question, we have had more than one person in the classroom, mostly 2.
Okay, so that is what for creative. It is born out of diversity, versatility, and then creativity.
Yes.
Then high scope. Do you lump all the kids all together? If it is drawing time, they all draw at the same time. How different is it from creative?
Like I said before, the classrooms are divided into sections, mostly between 7 and 8. And we have set limit for each area. Each area has a limit of children that can go there. Like the sand table, only 2 students can go there. Like the water table, another 2 students can go there.
Yes, sir.
And in the whole United States, it is only in New Jersey where we have a law called Abbott. Abbott means you have to hire a high qualified teacher, and the children shouldn't be more than 15 in a classroom. Because there was a case back in the 60s where a lawyer's son went through the system and did not make it. So he sued all the way to the Supreme Court and won. So it has become a law in New Jersey that there must be a law called Abbott, where students shouldn't be crowded in one classroom. For more than 15 students shouldn't be crowded in one classroom.
And Jerry, I'm curious. If you took your child to a preschool and by age 5, you would expect the child to be able to do basic things like counting numbers and reading and writing, and they can't do that. What policy legislation is there in Ghana for you to seek redress, even though you've spent a fortune in the past 3 or 4 years in the development of the child? Just the case, the Supreme Court case in the US, what remedy is there for you to sue the school?
And I'm happy to answer this question. In the US, the first 45 minutes of the children coming into your classroom, we have basic tests called, first it used to be Brigance. Now it is EZR. You have to test them from colors that they know already, to counting, to everything, letters, to know what they know already, so that you use it, you the teacher or the teachers will use it to prepare your lesson plans as to how far these children can be pushed to before the year ends. So it isn't that they just come and throw the children into the classroom and then you just teach anything that you want, no. And then for the curriculums that I mentioned before, they have thematic projections that you have to start the children from this level and they have to end at that level. And then the public schools also come in, they pop in anytime, unannounced. Come in, they pop in anytime unannounced to let them know they are around, to check on you, the teacher's performance.
Okay.
And then the children, how they are coping.
Okay.
Because if you are a teacher, or if I'm a master teacher, which I've been before, and I come into your classroom and I see that the children are stiff, very silent, they don't talk, that means there's bullying or there is something going on which is not appropriate.
On that bullying point, and I'll ask you about that because I have a good friend who has monitored the educational sector in the country for so long. And in a discussion yesterday with her, she's an architect, she told me Ghana has no anti-bullying policies in schools at all levels. We'll go for a quick commercial break. We'll be back shortly. You're welcome back. We are still with Jerry Kotson, Senior.
Senior, yeah. I have a junior, so.
Yes. You can keep your questions and comments coming on our social media WhatsApp line, which is boldly inscribed for you to see. These are some of the books that are used in the U.S.
Yes.
This is the creative curriculum for preschool.
Yeah. Currently, New Jersey is using creative curriculum.
Have you had time to look at some of the books that are used in Ghanaian preschools?
No, I have never had the chance to look, because when I asked and they told me they don't have any curriculum, I have never had any chance to look at any. So I'm yet. So right now, as I speak, I've booked an appointment with Dr. Tando, placement officer for the Ministry of Education, and he's giving me, he's currently out of the country with the president, and he's giving me October 22nd to meet one-on-one with me.
Okay, great. So these books are used at both the state and the federal levels in the United States.
Yes.
And this is literacy, the creative curriculum approach.
Yes.
Reading aloud.
Yes.
Reading aloud.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the fourth
foundation.
edition of the creation curriculum, the creative curriculum for preschool. Is also a book that I guess thinks Ghana should model.
This is the enrollment.
Okay.
This is enrollment requirement. Everything about enrollment requirement is here.
How kids can enroll.
How,
and the requirements
yes,
they need to
everything
meet.
that needs to be, they need to get enrolled is here.
Okay. Then there is music play in the box. Music play in the box. And I can see there are a lot of pictures.
Yes.
For the kids to look at.
Children use play to learn more.
Okay.
And they also learn more from each other than from the teacher.
Okay. How does the American model of preschool, how is it different from the Japanese model? Because Japanese are very creative and they start manufacturing things or inventing things pretty early. Is there any congruence, so to speak, between the Japanese and the American models?
That's a great question. My understanding is Japanese have adopted Dr. Maria Montessori's curriculum. the whole of Japan, and for that matter, Asian countries, they've adopted Dr. Maria Montessori's creative curriculum, Montessori curriculum.
Okay.
Because it gives the children time. You see, in the American model, the day is only 6.5 hours with 2 teachers in the classroom. The lead teacher must have at least a bachelor's degree. And in the US, when you have a bachelor's degree in education, you are nowhere a teacher. You have to be trained. First 30 days back to back in the classroom with a supervisor in the classroom. Then you are given a provision. If you pass, you are given a provisional license. They give you a limit of 2 years to be also trained monthly by another teacher, a master teacher. Then after which, the supervisor of the master teacher will come in and supervise you unannounced 3 times. And if you make it, then they approve of your standard certificate that I brought, but it is not here. I brought to show you, but it is in one of my bags that I brought to show you. So to get a teacher's license in the US, it is not just easy. You can have a PhD, but if you do not pass the praxis exams, which I'm here purposely to speak to the education minister so that I can link Ghana with, because of Kofi Annan's accession as our UN director, and because of the democracy, the constant democracy that Ghana has had.
Yeah.
Americans view Ghana as the hub of Africa. So development, they think development should start from Ghana. And that makes me proud that as a product of Ghana, I was born and raised here, even though I went to my schools in the US. I've worked there for almost 20 years. But I'm very proud that my colleagues, those in the highest level, they see Ghana as the hub of Africa for education. And now development is also setting in. For education, they see Ghana as the hub. So if they see Ghana as the hub, and I have all this knowledge and experience, why can't I take a leave of absence, go down there with my credentials and meet with the education authorities so that I can help establish my own consulting firm to help retrench Ghana's education system to take the lead for Africa to copy from?
I think for every consultant, and I'm a consultant as well, but on other issues,
okay,
the first thing you would want to do when you want to effect changes, to do a SWOT analysis of what is already the existing formula or model. So you need to look at the strengths in the preschool setting here in Ghana, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and then the threats.
Okay.
So have you had time to do all of those, and what deficiencies have you been able to pinpoint?
I have, since I came, I've had quite some problems because of transportation problems, but notwithstanding, it is my hope that before the 22nd, I will do all this research, get some findings before I meet with the Minister of Education so that I can give him my recommendations.
Okay. And then again, in terms of policy, because since you've not been able to go to various preschools in Ghana, it would be a bit unfair to ask you pinpointed questions about what goes on in those schools. But do you think Ghana should import and swallow hook, line, and sinker what you think has worked for the U.S. when we are a third world country, we are a developing country, and the U.S. is an industrialized country. We don't have the kind of working class demographic the U.S. has, and therefore the situations
funding.
are
We're talking
different.
about funding. It boils down to funding.
Okay.
I discussed, before I had this dream, I discussed with some philanthropists in the U.S. Jeff Bezos, the richest man in America now.
And the owner of Amazon and also
Amazon,
the Washington Post.
yes. And Zuckerberg, the
Facebook.
Facebook guy, they've been very generous towards schools, and they are ready to patronize any third world country that will set the course for the betterment of their children. So given the chance, if I'm able to establish my consultancy, linking Ghana to people like these people wouldn't be a problem for me to solicit funds, because most of the furniture and the play toys, the teaching materials, they are all centered there, and they can be imported, paid for them to come in.
Maybe my producers will pull up some of the footage we have in a typical preschool, and that meets the Ghanaian standards in the Republic of Ghana, so you can pass commentary and tell whether we need anything more.
Okay.
And then you were away. You've been away for decades.
Yes.
Times have changed, Daddy. And those times, if you didn't go to Abrochre, you didn't have access to certain things.
Yes.
We are here, we buy the latest stuff on the international market online. So do you think it's necessary that for someone who has travailed in the U.S. for a few decades to come and think the opportunity, and Jerry, what are the policy changes you would want to see? Of course, there is no working document, I hear, and that sets the parameters for what should be taught in a preschool and what the conditions are supposed to be generally. Given the opportunity, what would you change in terms of policy direction?
And that is why I brought these books. They are all in here. Given the opportunity, I'll go step by step what I have here. And I have people standing by who will also guide me to make Ghana a world-class country for the rest of Africa to emulate from us.
We are talking approved international models at the preschool level. Apart from Ghana, what other African countries are doing so well in this area? Have you had a look at what South Africa does, what Mauritius does, and what Egypt does, for example?
For South Africa, I've done some research on their preschools, and Mauritius, no, I have not done any. But for South Africa, I've done. They are coming up, but they don't meet the Ghanaian standard as I see now.
That's Mauritius.
That is South Africa.
South Africa doesn't look as good as we look in terms of preschool.
Yes, South Africa. They were, when they had independence, they were on the right path, but right now, things don't look good for South Africa,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Okay. On this sober note, we go for our final commercial break. When we come back, Abena Safo reads some of your messages and our guest answers them and gives his recommendations. Do stick and stay with us. We'll be back shortly. You're welcome back, and we are still with Jerry Kotson Sr., an international educationist. And today we are looking at, healthy comparisons between the preschool situation in Ghana and the one in the United States, and what best practices we can learn from those examples. And Abena Safo now joins us with some of the interactive messages you sent. Abena, you're welcome back.
Thank you.
What do we have by way of messages from our viewers?
Okay, we've received excellent social media feedbacks. This one is from Emmanuel from Cantonment. I love the program. I want to ask if our leaders really learn these things if they travel outside the country.
Okay. When you were told the one in charge of placement is out of the country, so when they travel like that, do they come back with the experiences they see outside?
I'm yet to find out, because I've not had the chance to meet him yet. But I'll ask him that question.
Okay. And then I'll bring out the next one.
And this is from Anochi from Ho. I wish this program can be extended further to the end of this year because we are really learning. Okay. This is actually a comment. And I move to another one. This one says, my name is Abna from Takwa. This is very insightful. I appreciate the job of the producers of this show. And the next one says, I want to find out from our guest if language plays a role in the education system outside the country or in the Western world.
In the U.S.,
yes,
they have English and Spanish. Where you worked, did they use one monolithic language?
You see, I've always had a problem with that. Most of the schools label all the sections in both English and Spanish. So when we the educators have the chance to go to workshops, I always ask the question, what about the African languages? Because we have had quite a few Africans who won the lottery and came in with their parents not even knowing English, not knowing how to sign their names. I personally had to sign in and out for this lady from Togo for 1 year until my boss seized me from doing that and instructed that she did it herself. But guess what? Because we used pictorials to teach the child emerged as the best student going to kindergarten.
Even though she came from Togo and could speak only French at
only
that
French.
time.
But he emerged as the best English-speaking student going to kindergarten because he took his pictures very seriously. Because this is how a typical classroom, preschool classroom is. Let's assume this 4 square is the classroom. And when you emerge, they've created a place called circle area or a large group area where a round rock with numbers and letters written on them for the children to sit around them. And there's a place for teacher and the assistant to sit.
Okay.
But the children at their age, they cannot read. They cannot read the schedule. So we represent the schedule with pictures, laminated pictures. Arava, what to do at Arava. Then breakfast is served because in America, breakfast, lunch, snacks are served freely.
Okay.
So they know that from Arava, they have to go to the sink, wash their hands with soap and water, dry their hands, put whatever in the dustbin, come in and sit at the table, which is already cleaned, sanitized.
Okay, that's fine. Amma, Abena, we are hard pressed for time, so you can take all the messages, and we see how. I guess we'll just tackle all of them at a go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The next one says, I want to appeal to your station to inform the ministry and Ghana Education anytime this program is airing because it's very resourceful. This is from Chris from Ebri. Another one says, as a developing nation, what curriculum would you recommend for Ghana per our culture since culture plays a role in our education system? And the last one says, is it possible to compare our curriculum to our developed countries or learn from them instead. This is from Sintim, from Kumasi.
Okay.
And the last but not the least, this is actually a wish, and I really have to do that before I go. Today is Madam Ekuya Owusu's birthday, and therefore I'll have to give her a big wish. We wish you all the best from Kantanka TV. We'll say a very big happy birthday to you, and this will be all of our social media segment for today. Okay. And so I'll leave the rest for you to deliberate with the guests.
That is the feedback from our viewers. So in closing, what would be your final recommendations and pieces of advice, so to speak, on the next steps we need to take as a country?
My recommendation would be to find out what curriculum Ghana is following, and if they don't, I will recommend one for them. Okay. And I would like to find out from them if the name Montessori is just a name given to schools, or they are actually practicing Montessori curriculum. And if they are actually practicing Montessori curriculum, I'm ready to help for them to set up their Montessori curriculum.
Okay. Thank you so much. We had in the studios Jerry Kotsen, Senior and International Educationist. Sir, thank you so much for making time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for making time.
Kantanta, you're doing a very great job.
Okay, thank you so much.
I like your setting.
Okay, thank you so much. And so we come your way next time with another edition of News Magazine. Stay blessed and keep watching Kantanka TV. Have a good day.